Microchips and faith. Seems like a stretch, doesn't it? But it's really not, as you'll learn as you stay tuned to this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Richard Thompson of Austin Metropolitan Ministries, welcoming you to this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. And today we're going to turn our attention to Micron Technology Labs, here in Austin, a leading pioneer in the field of high tech. Micron Technology Labs, founded by Liz Coker, who is our guest today. And Liz, we welcome you very much.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
And doing so because this is, as a program connected to Austin Metropolitan Ministries, dealing with the relationship of faith to life. And I've had occasion to hear you say how your faith has made a big difference in how you've done your business and continue to do that. Tell us a little bit first about your business.
Well, Minco was formed in 1981 to service a market, really, where the major manufacturers did not want to service or be in it. We buy wafers from companies such as Texas Instruments, Motorola, AMD, and then we process those wafers and resell to customer specifications. We ship primarily to military, defense contractors, and medical. One of our largest customers makes pacemakers and defibrillators. And so it's a niche market that we're serving.
Okay. And as a layman in regard to what Minco does, let's say that when you say it's a niche market, nobody else is doing that?
There's only 5 of us in the marketplace that do what we're doing. And we do it because the large companies don't want to do it. So that's a niche that we're serving.
I see. Okay, now that seems kind of technical to me. I mean, did you grow up with a computer on your lap sort of thing? Or?
Not hardly. I grew up on a farm in Tennessee.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
And how did you get from there to here?
Well, I quit school after the 9th grade and got married at the ripe old age of 15. And that marriage didn't work out. And so at the age of 18, it dissolved, and I moved to Texas and went to work for Texas Instruments. I had to go get my GED to go to work at Texas Instruments. And then in 1961, TI started teaching electronics courses. And so that first class that was taught at TI, myself and 32 guys signed up for it.
Oh, really? And so you were kind of in the minority.
I was definitely the minority. And 2 years later, I became TI's first female technician, electronic technician.
Okay, so you've really come up through the University of Hard Knocks. I mean, you were not a university graduate as such, but you've worked in a company and then got trained through that, and then there was a transition to becoming entrepreneurial about this. How did that happen?
Yes, there was. I was at Texas Instruments for 16 years, and I left there because we were selling chips, but as integrated circuits came along, the other departments did not want to sell into the department that I was in. So it became obvious that to service that market, there was going to have to be companies that would buy from all divisions of these major companies. And so I went to California in 1976 and helped form a company. And that was doing just that. We were one of the pioneers. There was one other company that was doing it at that time.
I see. So you started actually, as far as the company was concerned, in California?
Yes. I started another company, I helped start another company, and then I left that company and started Minco in Northridge, California.
Okay, now then as we travel along here, how did you get to Austin?
Well, Austin, actually, when I started the company in California, I knew I wanted to move. I had never liked California. Had lived in Dallas for 20 years, and so I knew that I wanted out of California. But we actually did a feasibility study on where we should move, and 35 survey letters were sent out. And believe it or not, one of them was not sent to Austin. It was sent to Dallas or Houston. But again, the Lord always gets things where they belong.
Okay.
So somehow Austin got hold of one of our letters and started sending us information and calling us. And when we came here, we were treated like an IBM. It was just incredible, the treatment that we got from the Chamber of Commerce when we came down here.
Okay, now what year was that?
1982.
Okay, so at that time, there weren't that many high-tech industries here. I mean, IBM was here.
That's right. Motorola and AMD.
Okay, so you were one of the early ones.
Yes, we announced just before you found out MCC was coming here.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Pioneer. You're a pioneer business person.
Kind of my nature.
Yeah, in more ways than one. I mean, being a woman, to be the only woman in a group of all men at one stage, and then to come to Austin when it was unfolding here. Now, our reason to have you here is to have you share with us something of how your faith enters into your work. It's not just the fact that you know a lot about the technology. There's something else going on, and give us a little sense of what that is.
Well, I fully believe that if we truly trust in the Lord to guide us in what we're doing, that guidance is there. And so from day one, I have felt that if, well, I look at the book of Proverbs as my business book. And I challenge other people when I speak or I'm talking to students or whatever to do the same thing, to go to the book of Proverbs, to read it, to compare it to what they're already studying in college, and see what they can find in their books that they're studying that's not covered in the book of Proverbs. I believe it's an excellent business book and guideline, and that's what we have used.
Okay, well, now I'm going to play a little bit of the devil's advocate here, if that's all right. I mean, in this high-tech field, you know, I've gotten into it just enough to know that you have these little manuals.
Yes, we do.
And you have to, if you want to solve a problem, you go back to the index and it refers you to delete or some command or another. Okay, now, do you see the book of Proverbs as being like such a, what you say, as a manual for functioning?
Yes. I believe the basics of everything that we need to know to function is in the book of Proverbs.
You've got certain kind of function keys there, is it?
That's right.
Okay. Well, let's
Function
talk
keys.
about
That's a good way of putting it. Okay?
Now, the book of Proverbs is known for its statement that the wisdom, the beginning of the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I think I finally got it out. And before the show, you were saying this is a starting point for you in a lot of ways. Tell us what that means for you and how that works out in your business.
Well, when we talk about the fear of the Lord, I look at the Lord as my father. And my father was my earthly father was a disciplinarian when I was growing up.
Okay.
And I always knew that if I did anything wrong, I would pay for it and pay for it dearly. And I look at my heavenly Father as exactly the same way. If I do anything wrong, I will pay for it, and I will pay for it dearly. So that's where the fear of the Lord starts and is the basis for it. And so
you're talking about some real fear. I mean, some apprehension of what happens if you don't.
What happens if you don't? Right.
Okay. I think there's also the idea that fear is having like awe, feeling of awe.
That's true.
Of being in kind of a relationship with a father that's not just ready to come down on you, but one that is so beyond our comprehension and understanding that we stand in awe.
That's true. This morning, for instance, I go out and walk at around 5 in the morning.
Okay.
This was one of the most beautiful days I've ever seen in my life. The morning, the full moon, the Christmas crispness of it. And I was just walking along just in awe and thanking the Lord for being there, for giving me the peace that I have, and for the guidance that I get on a daily basis. And I pray about what we're going to do throughout the day and things that I would want to see happen, but I also ask that it be in His will.
So it's kind of getting in touch and in relationship with God
Right.
each day.
That's correct.
That the fear of the Lord has to do with making sure that you're in contact.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good starting point. I also think of wisdom in Proverbs as having to do with honesty and truthfulness and integrity and those kinds of issues. Now, is there still room for that in the high-tech world?
Oh, absolutely. It's not only room, there's not only room for it, but it's absolutely essential, I believe. Number one, we're a small company, so any small company to survive long-term has to go on integrity. I think any company to survive long-term has to a certain extent, but it's so much more crucial for a small company because you can't get started if you don't have that integrity, if you don't tell the truth. It takes a lifetime to build up a reputation, but all it takes is one lie to tear it down.
Aha. Honesty is the best policy.
Honesty is the best policy,
And
no
that's-
question about it.
And that's not just aphorism.
Right.
You see that making all the difference every day.
Every day.
Yeah. You know, I've been impressed by the fact that in an era when there's so much on the media and perception that, you know, we can't trust our government or trust people in business, and trust factor seems to have diminished, that somehow that really that's not square with the reality, because the reality is that if people were, you couldn't trust them, you know, most of the time our society would fall apart. That basically we live in constant relationships of trust, whether we're aware of it or not. I mean, in business, your word is your bond kind of thing, I guess.
That's correct.
And that's as true with the world of superconductivity or the kinds of things that you're working with as any business. Except that I suspect it has something to do with what the product that you turn out. That it's something that people, when they get it from you, they can depend on it.
They can depend on it, and they know they can depend on it, absolutely.
Have people told you that?
Yes, absolutely. I'll use an example. In December, we are delinquent on a part to one of our major customers, and the buyer called me and asked me to sign the memo that was going out to him. And he said it to me, he said, I know if you sign it, that it's going to happen. And that is years and years and years of working with people and trust.
Could you hold that just for a minute? Because we're going to come back in just a minute after a short break and continue our discussion with Liz Coker. We're back now in Austin Faith Dialogue with Liz Coker, the founder and president and chief executive officer of Minco Technology Labs. And I need to come back, Liz, first of all, to welcome you back and say, I'm sorry for, I think I mispronounced the name of the company at the beginning of the show.
That's okay. No
So if
problem.
there's forgiveness in the book of Proverbs, would you please exercise it?
Lots of forgiveness in the books of
Okay.
Proverbs.
And we were talking about Proverbs as a biblical source of inspiration for your work. And in addition to the matter of honesty and trustworthiness and so on, there's some other things in there that we were talking before the show that you used a good bit in your relationships. As people come to work for you, do you give them the book of Proverbs to read in terms of...
No.
Well, how do you work it in then to your relationships?
Well, it's really just the basis for the way the company is set up, and it's based on Christian principle.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to treat our team members that way. We try to treat our team members the way we want to be treated and the way we would want to be treated. The guidelines come from the book of Proverbs. We try to treat our customers exactly the way we would want to be treated. And we try to guide our decisions every day, our strategic planning. And I should say, I try to guide it that way.
Yeah.
Not from a religious standpoint where I'm trying to cram religion down anybody, but from a principle standpoint. And my relationship with the Lord and my walk with the Lord is mine.
Right.
And I'm not trying to influence anyone in that way, except in the right thing to do in the biblical way.
Well, you know, one of the things that occurs to me is that the book of Proverbs has to do with morality.
Yes.
It's longer on morality than it is on theology.
Yes.
So you can be a member of any given faith tradition or of no faith tradition, but still recognize that unless you're in relationship with people with integrity, I mean, integrity transcends all of that. And that's what the book of Proverbs, it seems like, comes back to again and again. Such as a word fitly spoken. We talk about that. How does that work?
A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in silver, I believe it was, or something like that. But anyway, we were talking about that. It's really golden to someone's ears when they hear praise or a word fitly spoken.
Mm-hmm.
When we speak to our team members in soft tongue instead of wrath, instead of stirring up anger and this type of thing. These are principles that we have tried to base our company on.
Mm-hmm.
And
so to be mindful of not only what you say, but how you say it.
that's correct, definitely.
And
And we have to work on that all the time.
Yeah.
We're not always right by any means.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just increasingly impressed by the fact that it's not only good business to treat people decently and thoughtfully and appropriately and fittingly, but that somehow this has to do with giving meaning to our work besides the bottom line.
Yes.
I mean, you have to think about the bottom line, but somehow to make an idolatry out of that, to do anything to make the profit, maximize the profit. In an era of downsizing, in an era of oftentimes, it seems like corporations treating their employees just like dispensable objects.
That's a shame.
And the whole sense of loyalty that used to be connected to companies is under real strain. How do you manage in a competitive situation to keep treating your folks with, you know, some sense of caring? And have you had to do any downsizing along the way?
Once in, I think it was 90, we cut back some managers, and it was not downsizing, and that was not the way we were looking at it. It was more a matter of we were changing, we were having to get more competitive, we were changing our quality system and many things, and we had some people who simply did not want to go the direction the company was going. And that's the only time. We've never had real layoffs per se, and we strive very hard not to do that, and our team members know that. And W.C. Inman paid Minco, I thought, the ultimate compliment a couple of years ago. I was going to speak at the Austin Quality Council meeting It was actually 3 years ago. And I was sitting at the table with several people, and the mayor was sitting there. And WC said to the mayor, he said, Mayor, when you walk up to Minco and you take hold of the handle on the door, you feel the energy of the place. And that's something that we strive to keep. We want people to be energetic, to feel that sense of caring. And we feel it's okay to use that word and to say that word, that we care, that we love people, because we do. We truly do.
You said that, who was this that made that statement about?
W.C. Inman.
And tell us who he is.
Well, he was a gentleman that was working at that time with the state. He was from working with Miss Richards.
Okay. You do a good bit of speaking yourself, don't you?
Quite a bit.
Where do you go? And
well, wherever I'm asked. I was the Small Business Person of the Year for the state of Texas in 1992. And so after that honor, I've been asked by several places to speak. And so if I'm asked, I go.
But I mean, you also are, don't you go to schools and share the word of your work in different settings like that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'll be speaking to a class at UT next Thursday. And again, just sharing Minco's story and our philosophies and our history, basically.
Well, I think that one of the things that I recall is that you've been able to connect with folks kind of on a national basis as well, beyond the locality.
Oh, yes. Most of our customers are nationally. Customers, our largest is up in Minneapolis, the next one is in Arizona, and the next one's in Massachusetts, so it's all over the country.
And abroad as well?
Oh, yes.
Where internationally you're represented?
France, England, Scotland, and several other countries via France or England.
And you've had certain mentors along the way, people who have helped you along. Who've been some of those?
A couple of them. One of them probably that made the most influence in my life, and as far as leadership in the Christian world, was Mary Crowley. The last year I worked at Texas Instruments, I also worked with Home Interiors part-time that year. And I think Mary is the one that convinced me that I could do anything I wanted to do, and that I could be a woman and act like a woman and act like a lady and do that.
I see. And who is Mary Crowley?
She owned a company. Well, she passed away a few years ago, but she owned Home Interiors. Mary started Home Interiors at the age of 42. She was divorced. She was raising 2 children, and she had cancer shortly after she had started it. And so I read a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World, and I read it quite by accident. It was supposed to have been given to another Liz, and it was given to me. And that book, along with remembering what Mary had said to us, really is what gave me the guts to step out and leave my previous employer and to start Minco.
Well, you know, I think that the fact that you have had the experience of being successful, being assertive as you have to be in business, and yet being feminine. I mean, that combination for women today, it seems to me, is the growing awareness that in a way you can have your cake and eat it too.
We can, and I love it.
Do you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do enjoy being treated like a lady, and I am, and I'm respected as one, and I feel I'm also respected in the industry, and from a integrity standpoint, but from just a lady also, and I do enjoy it.
In the few minutes that we have left, I want to come back to one other part of the book of Proverbs. And I have to say, having your cake and eat it too, I don't think is in the book of Proverbs. But the one about friendship and the one about thinking.
As a man thinketh, so is he.
Right. It's somehow that plays a part in your from what you even said here.
Yes.
I can sense that.
Yeah.
Can you spell that out a little bit?
Well, I've always said that I did not sell. I spend a lot of time out in the industry and on the road, but I don't sell. I make friends. And I've made an awful lot of friends in this industry over the years, and I love it. And I love knowing that almost any state in this country, I could call someone and ask for help and get it if I need it. And it's that type of friendship. It's not just a casual friendship. So those friendships have meant an awful lot to me over the years. And then, as a man thinketh, our thoughts are what we become, really. When we believe we can do something, we can do it. But those thoughts have to be turned into actions. And that is the key, is turning that thought into an action and doing something. The Bible, the Lord can tell us what we need to do. But until we take action on it, nothing's going to happen.
Okay. Now, you make friends rather than make sales.
Yes.
If you develop a relationship with someone in which you recognize that the sale is not to their benefit, a sign of a friend would be to say, maybe you could do better somewhere else, or maybe this is not for you. I mean, that would be kind of an indication that you're relating to them not just as somebody to manipulate.
That's correct.
But as somebody to care about. But how do you make a profit when you do that?
You don't have to do that very often. And you do that a few times, and the business is there. And I have done it.
You have said...
I have said just that.
Exactly that.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah. Well, I think that would be the test.
I don't believe that we can serve you. In fact, I said it today.
Okay. As recently as
yes,
that.
Yes, as recently as today.
Okay.
I told a gentleman, I said, we can get that part for you, but you can get it somewhere else, less expensive, because we are not an authorized processor for that particular company.
Well, it seems to me there must be a principle at work in the universe, in a sense, that supports that. You know, that somehow, if you really do express that kind of relationship, and that kind of reflecting God's relationship to us,
Right.
It cares about us enough that we not only have this awe of God, but know that God is our ultimate friend, is the basis of our friendships here. And I also think of Descartes, who said, "I think, therefore I am." But in a way, it's like you are what you think, as well as you are what you eat.
That's true.
And so that mindset, it seems to me, is what kind of runs through a lot of what we've talked about here. And that somehow works into the creativity of this high-tech world that you're a part of.
Yes. It's the guidance that I feel that I've gotten from the Lord and from the Bible, and the inspiration, the answer to prayer, is really the key to Minco's success and the reason it's succeeded. I don't have the education to run a company.
Yeah.
I really had no idea what I was doing when I started Minco.
Well,
and the day I opened those doors, I said, Lord, it's yours. You have to lead me.
Okay. Well, you're an inspiration to us, Liz, today, to share